Welcome to another episode of All About Art. If you're new here, All About Art is a podcast with a mission of demystifying the professional art sector by publishing interviews with people working in the arts as they talk about their education, career paths, and more, spotlighting the cultural sector as a really great place to work. I also produce solo episodes where I talk about different topics in the art world from the point of view of someone who works in it. Right now, full-length interviews of All About Art are audio only, but depending on where you're tuning in, you can either watch the solo episodes or, of course, you can just listen in. Before we continue, if you tune into this episode and you enjoy it, help us out by hitting the thumbs up or by rating the podcast over on the streaming site of your choice, as it really helps us continue to produce the show. Now, let's dive into the episode. Today, we're talking about something that the art world often whispers about, but rarely examines directly: money. More specifically, salaries, survival, and what it actually costs to work in the arts when you don't have external support or financial padding. If you've ever looked at job listings in museums, galleries, or artist studios and wondered how anyone is supposed to live on those salaries in a city like London, I'm not surprised if you'd be questioning it. The numbers are real, and they're often startling. This episode builds on what I learned while working together with art recruiter Sophie McPherson in my capacity as director of NextGen, the membership platform I run that supports emerging arts professionals through events, resources, community, and more. We put together a job hunt toolkit in late 2025, where we heard from members of the team on topics such as asking the questions that matter in interviews, making sure it's a two-way street, while also learning about how to approach salary negotiations, for example. Sophie McPherson, or SML as I'll refer to it going forward, also partnered with ArtTactic to produce a talent report as well, which gives some of the clearest data we have on salaries across the art market. To give some further context on the report, it's essentially one of the only industry-wide attempts to map salaries across the commercial art world with real transparency, breaking down roles, pay bands, and progression in a way most institutions simply don't publish. One thing I love about it as well is that each year it gives political and economic context to the data, reminding us that although the art world may be infamous for pay issues, we are not flying solo. The goal today isn't to catastrophize, and it's not to glamorize the grind either. It's about being realistic, informed, and prepared, because financial understanding is a creative resource. And understanding the landscape can shape the choices you make. It can prevent burnout, and it can help you advocate for yourself early on. Let's start with the basics. What jobs in the art world actually pay? You'll often hear that you don't go into the arts for the money. Fine, but that slogan becomes unhelpful when it actually obscures the reality that low wages exclude people, they reduce diversity, and they force many early career arts professionals into unsustainable financial situations. Here are some benchmarks regarding pay from both my own experience and putting that within the context provided by the SML ArtTactic report. When I worked as a studio manager in 2021, I earned £25,000 per annum. As a sales assistant in 2022-2023, that became £32,000. As a gallery and exhibitions manager in 2023-2024, I earned £40,000 per annum. Those figures are actually above average for comparable roles, as according to the talent report, many people stay at £22,000 to £28,000 for years. If you're listening in from another country or city, to contextualize that salary a little bit further, the annual salary for the London living wage is £28,860 per annum, based on the current hourly rate of £14.80 and a standard 37.5-hour work week. This means, to put it bluntly, the early to mid-career positions in the art world don't even offer London living wage. One reason I was able to grow as quickly as I did is because this podcast gave me the space to develop and demonstrate my own curiosity and work ethic and foster a deeper network that ended up presenting me with opportunities. I'm mentioning this because it's not a universal template for progression. My trajectory involved a mix of luck and a significant amount of unpaid time, of focus, and genuine interest in the field. This just isn't a sustainable expectation for everyone, and I'm aware of that. According to the report, for senior and middle management positions, a sales director earns between £40,000 and £60,000. A senior director can earn between £80,000 and £150,000. And commission structures, which are typically often around 5 to 10%, can push that even higher. The numbers I'm citing are ones appearing in the commercial art world. But in the nonprofit or the museum sector, salaries are dramatically lower. This isn't an opinion. This is the documented gap. And if you're navigating this industry without financial backing, the differences here shape your career choices. This gap is one reason I entered the commercial art world early on. I had financial insight to know that I didn't have the option to start in museums or public institutions, even though I cared deeply about that work. I needed to pay rent, even as a first-year student. And that dilemma, this meaningful work versus survivable work, is something that many emerging professionals quietly negotiate. This brings us to talking about the age-old issue that keeps getting discussed amongst museum workers, policymakers, curators, you name it: accessibility. There's a brilliant LinkedIn post by art handler and technical production manager Erica Lewis that lays out the issue with clarity. Low museum salaries systematically push out working class applicants before they can even enter the field. She wrote, quote, "It's an open secret that museum jobs pay very little and are few and far between, especially with permanent contracts. When museum employees can't afford to live on the salaries offered, it means that these roles are only realistically available to people from higher socioeconomic backgrounds and/or familial financial safety nets. We know that the working class is grossly underrepresented in museums and the arts. The dangers of this kind of homogeneity in the sector can be seen in historical instances where major blind spots in collecting, interpreting, and displaying museum collections, from art history to zoological specimens, has an effect on our understanding of culture and science. For example, museums of natural history collections have been found to have biases towards historically collecting more male specimens of bird and mammal collections, which has an impact on scientific study of that species' taxonomy, ecology, evolution, and conservation. These are real and tangible effects felt due to bias. The qualifications required for many entry-level roles are shocking. Graduate degrees, language skills, specialized experience that require time and energy that simply just don't align with the salaries offered. In London, a £24,000 job is simply incompatible with market rent, transport, and basic life expenses, unless you have parental financial support, savings, a partner who earns more, or a willingness to take on debt. At the time I'm recording this, Tate union staff have just implemented a strike over pay, a sign of growing frustration with compensation that hasn't kept pace with inflation or expectations. Change is inching forward, but the conversation is still fragmented. Meanwhile, many people entered the art world only to leave within a few years because they can't build stability. I get it. Understanding this context isn't cynical, it's practical. It shapes how you approach your career, and it might explain why your path doesn't look like the one you imagined when you were still in university. There is something I think many people tend to learn the hard way as well, and I'm speaking from personal experience on this one, and it's knowing when to volunteer and how to value your time. Most of us start out doing unpaid work, internships, assisting, shadowing. Some of this can be genuinely beneficial. Exposure, mentoring, and network building have great value when they're part of a reciprocal exchange. But unpaid work becomes exploitative when exchange isn't balanced. I've done things for free that I should not have done for free. Many of us have. You talk yourself into it with the fear of missed opportunity, even when you don't have the energy or time. Here are some questions I now ask myself when I get asked to invest my time and energy into a project, and I encourage you to do the same. Am I gaining something I can't get elsewhere? Is this building skills or relationships that I actually need? Will I feel resentful afterwards? I'm looking at all you people pleasers listening in. Is there a boundary being crossed if I agree? And if so, which one? It's important to talk to peers, mentors, and colleagues about rates and expectations, especially early on in your career. Silence around money makes people vulnerable. Transparency helps you make informed decisions, and it pushes the industry towards fairer standards. If you're entering the arts now, it's great if you develop this instinct early. Know what your work is worth, and don't be afraid to walk away when something isn't right. When you are intentional with your time, you start to recognize that not every opportunity is actually an opportunity for you. Some things sound impressive, but drain you. Others look like the right next step, but don't match your long-term direction. Learning to say no, even when something feels flattering or convenient, creates the space and the bandwidth you need for the things that genuinely move you forward. And when something more aligned or more beneficial does come along, you're then not exhausted or overcommitted. You're able to show up with attention, energy, and actual capacity rather than forcing yourself through another obligation out of fear of missing out. Let's shift from the conceptual to the practical a little bit. Working in the arts in a city like London means managing resources in the broadest sense. Time, money, energy, connections, the lot. Here's something that I did early in my career that I'm glad I did. I learned to assess which opportunities were worth my limited resources. Taking the tube to an event sounds small, but when travel costs stack up, it becomes a decision. London has a built-in surcharge simply for existing. A drink after work can easily be £12. Lunch out, 15 to 20 quid. Even a free exhibition, still costs transport, which can sometimes mean spending anywhere between £5 and £15, depending on where you live and what time you traveled. So resource management is a great way to be strategic. Here's some of the things that I've done to manage my resources on the day-to-day that sound small, but they actually stack up. Packing lunch instead of buying it. I pre-cook at the weekends and I take food with me nearly every day, so I'm not buying food on the go. It's cheaper and it's healthier. Deciding which openings or events will actually benefit you. Early on in your career, I do think that the more you show up, the better, yes, but as you progress and grow, it's not about being at as many shows as you can be at anymore. So taking time to reassess as you progress will benefit you. Prioritizing networking when you have the energy to take advantage of it. In line with my previous point, please don't burn yourself out to build a network because you can still do it authentically while not exhausting yourself. Saying no to things that drain you without offering value. Using the points I mentioned earlier in this video, learning how to assess what is valuable to you will be an invaluable asset in your professional toolbox. Alongside all of these points, there is also community support. Most people don't have everything figured out, even when they appear polished or successful online, believe me. Some have safety nets that make certain opportunities feasible. Others don't, and you can never tell through their Instagram grid. That's why I'm speaking plainly about money matters. So where does all of this leave us? Money isn't a side topic in the art world. It shapes careers, access, well-being, and who gets to participate. And the more openly we discuss salaries, boundaries, and survival, the more pressure we place on institutions to create fairer pathways. If you're struggling or realizing how tough the financial landscape can be, what I want to say is that it won't be forever. Stability does build slowly. The early years are often the steepest part of the climb, from what I can tell. And I truly hope that more transparency helps us flatten that curve for each other. If you want more resources like the SML ArtTactic Talent Report or more episodes on practical survival in the arts, you can find them linked in the show notes. It is also something I don't shy away from in my book, Working in Art, which is available for pre-order now to be released on April 9th, so very soon. And because this episode is fittingly about money and sustainability, I will close with a gentle reminder. You can support the podcast on Patreon for as little as £1 a month. It helps us keep producing these episodes and sharing resources that aren't always available elsewhere. And that is it for today on All About Art. As always, thank you so much for listening.